Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube, and I wanted to make this video on the 2015 MTV Movie Awards show. I've covered this subject quite a few times on the channel here, and other people out there cover these subjects as well, and it's this Illuminati symbolism, if you will, that shows up time and time again in a lot of these award ceremonies. Even the Super Bowl, we're seeing it there now. And beyond that, you see this stuff really in everything. It's completely and totally saturated our pop culture. It's in movies, TV shows, commercials, music videos. It's all over the place. I use the term Illuminati. Sometimes I use it loosely because there's a lot of different names for this organization or for these people. And beyond that, I see it more of a system, not just a little group of people wearing black robes or something like that. It really is a system. It is a satanic system. I call it the beast system. There's plenty of research out there you can do, and you'll find these connections to Freemasonry, also to, again, these so-called Illuminati symbols, or these symbols for the beast system, or at the very basic level, just satanic symbolism. So I wanted to make this video to point out a few of the symbols I found, but that wasn't really the primary focus here. I really want to focus on a lot of the social engineering taking place during this, and a lot of the messages, again, they're pushing out to the public and the way that they're trying to condition us and program us. So as far as the symbols go, this is really the main one I wanted to cover because it's, to me, one of the most interesting so-called Illuminati symbols out there. And this is a symbol that you're going to find in more media than anything else. You know, the all-seeing eye, the horns, the 666 signs, I mean, whatever it is, yeah, that stuff's all out there. But this particular symbol right here is something you're going to see in practically everything. The symbol in question is right there. You can see it a couple times on the side of the phone booth right there, and then you see it on that movie poster in the very center, and it's the 8-pointed star. But before I actually cover the 8-pointed star, I thought it was really interesting. The name on that movie poster, A Revenge of the Seventh Letter. So understanding that there's already a connection there between these Illuminati symbols, these satanic symbols, and MTV itself, I find it interesting. We see here the Revenge of the Seventh Letter. And do you know what the seventh letter is? That's right. The seventh letter is the G. The G from Freemasonry. So many different explanations of what that is. The Great Architect is one that seems to be most widely accepted. But of course, one thing we pointed out here on the channel time and time again, with most of these symbols, there's usually multiple meanings, right? And a lot of that has to do with the confirmations you have or any connections to other symbols and how it's being displayed at the time. So we have the Revenge of the Seventh Letter, but beyond the G, I want to take a look at the 8-pointed star. The 8-pointed star appears in cultures all around the globe. You can find it in national flags. You can even find it related to certain religions. It's all over the place. But as with all of these symbols, what's most important is to always find out where it started. Find out what it really means. Because throughout the years, a lot of these symbols are adapted by different cultures, different religious sects. So it's always important to try to look back at what the original meaning was. The Mayan cross of Quetzalcoatl is an 8-pointed star. The 8-pointed star is also a symbol of chaos and magic. The 8 of Wands in Aleister Crowley's Thoth tarot deck featured prominently an 8-pointed star with arrows at the ends. In Hinduism, the 8 paths is the way of the Buddha. Also in Hinduism, you find another 8-pointed star associated with Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. We also find the 8-pointed star in Islam. By the Middle Ages, the 8-pointed star was widely used as a symbol in Islamic art. It was called the Khatim, or the seal of the prophets. It's interesting because we also find the 8-pointed star associated with Wiccans. They call it the Wiccan Wheel of the Year. It's commonly represented as a circle containing 8 different spokes, or an 8-pointed star. Find it first originating is with the Sumerians. It seems the Sumerians used an arrangement of lines as a symbol for both star and God. And the linear 8-point star represented the goddess Inanna, Sumerian queen of the heavens, and Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess known as the light bringer. At the same time, the 8-pointed star enclosed within a circle was a symbol for the sun god. So it's even more interesting to me because we find that the Babylonian star cult really is the core of this 8-pointed star symbol. So as I said, it's always interesting to see the different connections with this same symbol. And you can see where different people are going to have different interpretations. But to find the original meaning, we go back to the beginning, and we find that it's the star of Ishtar. And the 8 points represent the movements of the planet Venus associated with that goddess. But what I find most intriguing about the Star of Ishtar is the fact that the 8 points also represent the 8 gates of the city of Babylon. So we find this Babylon connection to the 8-pointed star. Which brings us back to MTV, and we have our 8-pointed stars here once again, right? And now that we know a little bit about the history of the 8-pointed star and the different interpretations, why do you think that it's showing up in everything? Why do you think that it's all over pop culture? It's in all the movies, TV shows, commercials. It's everywhere. And now that you've seen it in this video and you maybe weren't aware of it before, I promise you, you're going to start seeing it in all kinds of things. So my personal interpretation of why it's here on MTV is going back to the original intention of the symbol itself. Going back to that original culture, going back to the Sumerians, which brings us back to Babylon. Hollywood Babylon, America Babylon. This is just my own personal interpretation. This is the way I see things. I'll tell you this actually in a much bigger way, and I've said this in other videos as well. I see these symbols all associated with the beast system, the Antichrist system. Different branches of the same tree, different bricks of the same pyramid. All these symbols, all these things ultimately lead up to the same thing and the same idea. A satanic set of ideals, a satanic way of living your life. And I'll show you a few things here just briefly if you're new to this kind of a thing. And as I've said, if you're new to this, do some research on symbols. You're going to start to see this stuff all over. So here we have the fallen star, or we have the symbol of the star falling. And this is on a Selena Gomez music video here. And then here she is again in the same music video, the same symbol, just in a different spot. Once again is the star falling, the fallen star. And then you probably remember this from the Super Bowl, and there's Katy Perry. She's on a falling star, the star that fell from heaven. And all this stuff, again, as I said, ultimately goes back to the beast system, the coming Antichrist. So that's pretty much it with the symbols at the MTV Movie Awards that I wanted to cover, but really wanted to get into more of these social agendas and these social engineering taking place in this. It's just an example right here, but I mean, it's really all over the place. And this is a subject that I know upsets some people out there. I've covered it a few times in other videos, but it's stuff that has to be talked about because it's all over the place. And it's this so-called gay agenda, okay? And that's not just me pulling something out of the air. All of us get it, right? We get it. We see it. I know you do. I know you do. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention did a massive study in America last year to find out the percentage of people in America, male and female, that define themselves as homosexual. Their findings are pretty interesting. Males were 1.8% and females were 1.5%. It goes to show you that the homosexual population in America really isn't that big. I mean, it's just a very, very, very small minority. We have to ask ourselves, why is it in everything? Why is it in everything you turn on TV, all forms of media, everything's gay, right? It's all gay. I mean, there really is kind of like a gay revolution going on, you know? I mean, it's all over the place, right? Like we're seeing it everywhere. And it's changing institutions. And this really isn't just some fad or something. I mean, this is huge. The whole gay agenda, this movement, is changing institutions, even like the military. And even sports, you know, football. You know, it's infiltrated everything, right? Everything's gay now. Everything's gay. Pointing that out is, as I said, it is everywhere. I mean, it's hard to even watch any kind of so-called comedies anymore nowadays because it's always like wiener jokes, gay innuendo, straight dudes having to do, quote, gay things, you know, stuff like this. It's just like, you know, I've had enough. I've had enough, okay? We get it. But this right here was Zac Efron and James Franco's younger brother. I'm not sure of his name, but they were up on stage and did this little skit. Nobody laughed. I mean, the audience was even just silent during this entire thing. And then I guess a big part of the gag right here is Zac Efron grabbing this guy's junk. And it really struck a chord with me because this goes back to a whole trend I've been seeing over the last several years, more and more in comedy specifically. You know, for a long time it was all just like, pee pee and poo poo jokes. Like that was the new thing. Pee pee poo poo. Lowest common denominator, keep them dumb, really dumb and stupid stuff. But then it seemed like this whole gay thing kind of started kicking in. We started seeing more of this hands-on, more guys with their hands on each other. And, but then I started seeing a new trend emerge. It wasn't just these guys putting forth all this pee-pee, poo-poo humor. Suddenly, it's more of this kind of homoerotic stuff. So some of you may remember this. This is Seth Rogen and James Franco. And here they are again. They were on that naked show where they got naked together and ran through the woods or whatever. These guys really like to get naked with each other, it seems. This is one of their Christmas cards. And then there's this. Well, they're not the only ones. Then, of course, there's Jonah Hill, considered another one of our big comedians out there, right? And Russell Brand, no surprise there. Andy Samberg and Seth Rogen. And then there's Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell. And Will Ferrell. And Will Ferrell mocking Christ. I know, you probably think I'm just being uptight or whatever, right? These are comedians. And I've seen pretty much all these movies too. I mean, don't get me wrong. And there are moments that can be funny here and there. But to me, it's never the stuff that's really foul or just over the top or real homoerotic and just nasty. I mean, that's just the way I see it, Or just all homoerotic and stuff. I mean, for whatever reason, like I said, and I'm showing you here, this stuff is just time and time again pushed on us. Dudes kissing dudes, kissing dudes, kissing dudes. But I shouldn't be surprised, neither should you. I mean, they use these people, these so-called comedians out there. These are the modern day jesters of the beast system court. And these are some of the biggest purveyors of social engineering. They really push a lot of these ideas on us. It's easier to do because, hey, they're the comedians, they're just being funny. I just don't see where it's really funny. When I think funny, I like to go back in time. I think Steve Martin, would Steve Martin be doing these kinds of things? Would you see Steve Martin maybe making out with John Candy or something like that? Because I always liked John Candy as well. I mean, I just don't see these kind of guys doing that stuff. They didn't have to. They were genuinely funny people. I mean, same thing with George Carlin. I mean, George Carlin was an amazing mind, an amazing, not even just a comedian, really a philosopher. And would I see George Carlin doing any of this stuff these new goofballs are doing, this pee-pee, poo-poo, kissing other dudes and stuff? I mean, I just don't see it. And of course, I got to shout out to my main man, Bill Hicks, my favorite comedian of all time. Again, another philosopher, really, but just a great mind. And once again, Bill Hicks would not be involved in any of this foolishness. Now, this is just my opinion, guys, but like I said, to me, these are comedians. These people were genuinely funny, and they wouldn't have to do this stuff. And there's one more thing I wanted to show you as far as this, again, social engineering, and you see how they're trying to push these ideas out on the public. And it's MTV, I mean, specifically targeted towards the younger generations. But they had Channing Tatum come out and accepted an award. And of course, he had to give this big speech about how the women are taking over. So the guys have just got to give in to the women. The women are taking over. Now, Channing Tatum is a really interesting one as well. I don't know if you really knew this or not, but he really was a stripper. That's how he got started. And I know he made the movie Magic Mike like many years later, but this is how he really got his start. I mean, dude was a stripper, right? So, and I've done videos in the past on mind control and Hollywood, and we find a lot of the connections with a lot of the starlets, a lot of the females out there. We don't hear a whole lot about the guys, but that's not to say it doesn't exist. Who's to say there can't be like some kind of a himbo program, if you will, kind of like what they did with Matthew McConaughey. He started off as just kind of this raw stud type guy, and he's developed into like an Oscar-winning actor. Same thing with Brad Pitt. He started off in Thelma and Louise as like this sexy kind of dude they meet up with and whatever, and the next thing you know, he's like the biggest actor out there, right? So it seems they have the same program for men as well. It's like the reverse of a lot of the so-called Illuminati artists we'll see. They'll start off as like the good girl and turn into the bad girl. And with the himbos, we'll see them start off the boys as bad boys and turn them into the good boys, turn them into the award-winning actors. It's just my observation. I think it's interesting. And then, of course, we find him here as well on the cover of Out. So we have his connection with the gay community as well. And this is no knock on the gay community or anything like that. This is not why I bring this up. I'm just trying to show you that there is that connection to this, and there is a massive social engineering plan taking place through Disney, through MTV, through any entertainment organization out there at this point. They all seem to be pushing this gay agenda. On January 10, 1963, Congressman Albert S. Herlong Jr. of Florida read a list of 45 communist goals into the congressional record, and the list was derived from a researcher, Cleon Skousen, who had written a book called The Naked Communist. To the point, I wanted to give you the communist goal number 26 that was listed in Skousen's book, and that's to present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as the new normal and natural and healthy. There's also number 32, which is to support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of our culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, etc. And there's number 40, which is to discredit the family as an institution and encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. So just with those few examples I read out to you, I mean, you can see this. It's really cultural Marxism that's taking place, and you can see this happening now. It's all just mind control. It really is. It's all just mind control. And it's all divide and conquer. We have all these different groups against each other. Men versus women, gay versus straight, black versus white. And I'm all about people having their own opinions. I'm all about, whatever you believe, you believe. That's fine, but it's just interesting. We find this massive machine, this entertainment industry, this massive machine, really at work as hard as it can, just forcing this agenda on us. We have to ask why. Why are they doing this, right? I make these videos in hopes that it will seriously open your eyes to this kind of stuff. Once you start seeing these things, it can't have any more power over you, and you can start seeing it for what it is. It's propaganda. This stuff is all propaganda, mind control and propaganda. So thanks for watching the video, you guys, and I'll talk to you real soon.